Reading of Gold, Chapter 3, Monday, July 8, 9 a.m. As John walked to the River Sunday National Bank, he could not help checking out the people he passed by on the street. Most of them he knew either as clients or acquaintances, but some were new faces. He had no idea what the killer might look like. Instead, he studied the faces, especially those of visitors or tourists, observing furtive glances, attempts to hide from his view, and general nervousness. He spotted nothing out of the ordinary, and began to chuckle at himself for being so diligent. This killer was not so stupid as to take him out in broad daylight. He knew he'd be surprised when he least expected an attack. Inside the bank, his shoes resounded on the marble floor, its once white panels stained to a light shade of brown from years of wear by muddy farmer's boots. He was no stranger here. He accompanied several clients over the last years, trying to renew their mortgages, trying to get the bank loan officials to be more caring, especially for the small farmers he brought here. He had little success unless he could find an angle where the bank was at fault. It was not often, but it did happen, and the tiny crack he opened gave the client a few more weeks to survive as a business before bankruptcy. It was a heart-rending business, and he was discouraged more and more at his ineffectiveness. He smelled the mold of the stone teller counters and plaster walls around him. He reached the safe deposit desk. A trim, middle-aged woman named Miss Minerva, who wore identical white and pink cotton dresses every time he saw her, handled the deposit boxes, keeping track in a small leather-bound book. John and Father Tom had carefully signed the book the day he took on the executor's assignment for the old man. He presented Miss Minerva with Father Tom's key. She looked at him sadly, not speaking, as if she never looked forward to this day in her box revels, this day of counting that eventually came to all of her customers, and stood up gathering her carefully buttoned dress around her. She led him to the large safe where the boxes were arranged on each wall by number. In a few minutes he was seated at a small table in a nearby private room, not much bigger than a closet. Father Tom's box opened in front of him. The safe deposit box also held 3 envelopes like his office folder. One contained another copy of the priest's will. The second had a savings account booklet. John noted in the booklet that Father Tom had updated his balance as of a month ago, and that his account held several $1,000s. From looking at the book, John confirmed that the old priest had no large savings with which to finance the monastery deliveries of $20 bills. So much for Father Philip's hope that the money was kept in the bank. The last envelope held a carefully folded deed to a small parcel of land near River Sunday. John had forgotten about this little piece of practically worthless land. Father Sweeney had told him this was a few acres he purchased years ago from a farmer near River Sunday to be used for the priest's hobby, spin cast fishing for rockfish. John had never visited the site, but knew it to be marshland, too waterlogged for housing or agricultural use. He opened the deed and read the contents. It was dated more than 10 years ago, and as he already knew, Ricker and the Ricker Agency was the broker of record. He had not helped with this deal, but knew about it from Father Tom, who discussed his fishing efforts. It was a cash arrangement for only a few $1,000s made with the former owners of the plot. Reading down the deed, he was particularly interested in the description of the land, which would be helpful when he went out to inspect it. The section of unimproved land at the hairpin bend of the Nanticoke River, 1 mile upstream from the bridge to Ellingham Island, and located on the east side of the river, bordered on the north by the property and farm of James Tolman, from whom this plot was purchased, and on the south by the estate of Dr. Leslie Robbins, bordered on the east by the river roadie from River Sunday, and comprising approximately 5 acres of wetland. John could imagine Wink Rigger sweet-talking the priest into the deal. Also, the owner, Tolman, had likely been waiting for a sucker to pay him for his useless marsh acres.